The views expressed in this presentation are expressly those of the presenter and do not reflect the official policy or position of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, the United States Air Force, Department of Defense, or United States government.
Moving on to the next main podcast topic, I think we are right on time. Okay, so my question overall, is the United States Air Force and Space Force diversifying and including effectively? I brought this up because I was thinking about, I don't know if you guys remember the Chappelle Show. When you had the Wu-Tang Financial, and they were trying to figure out how to best do their money or whatever, and they mentioned you got to diversify your bonds. So I just thought about that real quick, and I was like, I wonder if the Air Force is diversifying effectively. So give you guys a quick background story. Back in 2022, the Air Force and Space Force laid out a new vision for diversity in the officer corps and the enlisted corps, aiming to boost the proportionality of minority airmen and guardians, which are traditionally staffed by the personnel that it had been. Okay, so that was the first time that in nearly 10 years that the Air Force had addressed this and tried to look at these things. So they had a bunch of goals as far as different minority groups, including women, to try and say, hey, we're at this, but we want this. And for this group, we are at this, but we want this. And then the Air Force proceeded since 2022 to get towards those goals. I'm bringing this up because I've seen articles lately that imply that the United States Air Force and Space Force are struggling with the D&I initiatives. And we know that because our political leaders are struggling with it as well. And that's where we get our influence from, right? For guidance. So my leading question is the United States Air Force and Space Force diversifying and including its forces effectively, right? We know we're doing things, but are we as effective? With that in mind, what do you guys think is driving the D&I initiative in the first place for the United States Air Force? What is driving it? What is you guys' opinion? Like, why are we addressing it all of a sudden, do you guys think?
Well, I'm obviously not in yet, but I feel like it's because it goes back to the whole diversity of thought. If we're going to be going to all these conflicts, we need every single perspective possible to make sure that we have finding the best solution possible to all these things. Because if we have the same people that grew up in the same town, but that went to the same high school, you're only going to get a certain amount of thought, right? When we have all these peoples with different types of perspectives due to their upbringing, due to their cultures, that we may not even be able to think about just because we don't have that exposure to it. And I think when you're asking about how we're not actually employing people or D&I effectively because our political leaders are not, there's a lot of things going up in Congress, and I feel like that's exactly on point. Like this past week, I was able to go to Washington, D.C. to advocate for Hispanics in STEM. And, we were able to talk to the House of Representatives and different senators and everything. And the main theme was there's a really big agenda against diversity in general. And it's very interesting when you already step into these meetings with certain senators and their staffers or House of Representatives and their staffers. And you can already tell they do not even want you there when you're having their meetings. And you're like, oh, dang, and it just also brings it back to okay, what do we need? Because we were advocating for certain things that the Hispanic community needs, for example, support, resources, exposure. From my JROTC experience, I still think I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. So I'm really grateful for it. We have people, let's say, who don't even, for our Hispanic community, that don't even go to college because they don't even think it's an opportunity for them. So we need assistance. Again, because if you're first gen, you don't even know, sometimes people don't even know about FAFSA. And that's a huge, huge help, because if people only think I'm only here to farm, what they cannot even possibly, I can join the Air Force and become a pilot. They're two different things. And we brought up a whole thing about Hispanic serving institutions, like universities at UNLV. UNLV, I would say, is pretty good, but there's Hispanic serving institutions nationwide that when they get Hispanic serving institution grants, that money actually goes to do the maintenance on their buildings because of asbestos. So when it was brought up, I was like, yeah, because all that money goes to those buildings. It doesn't even go to the education part for the resources. So I feel like there's just a big workaround of things we need to have, good allocation of money, because I feel like you can't do a lot of things without money, but also just exposure, exposing people to the opportunities that we're able to have. Because again, maybe this is just my pitch, right? When I was over there and I was trying to add the military, spark into it, but we have a lot of untapped potential in the Hispanic community. We just don't know about it. So that would be my thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. I know you're kind of referring to the military side. You got that opportunity to go out there and really advocate, and which was really, here's the deal. I'll give you a little bit more background and history. So usually the reason why things are motivated usually by, like, that has something to do with money, usually has something to do with it. So let me go ahead and give you a backstory. In the 90s, okay, when folks were still using AOL and dial-up modems, right? That was a thing, right? And broadband was just getting started, right? There was a series of like major lawsuits that were going on, according to the Harvard Business Review, right? It was a lot of issues with, racism and sexism and things of that nature. These big companies were getting hit like millions and millions of dollars. So that usually provides a motivator to say, hey, we need to like address this now, like, because it's costing us. It's costing us a problem. And it's crazy. It shouldn't take money to motivate policy, but sometimes it does. It is the way that the world works, where if your morals and your ethics don't guide you, then your pocketbook will. Right. And that's what was happening back in the 90s, which, of course, if multi-millions are involved, then, our senior leaders and things are like that are involved. So, OK, Congress addresses it. Cool. We need to address this. But usually the military is always like a step ahead of the civilian empire. If you guys have noticed, it happens. Right. When in doubt, the military is already probably messing with it and experimenting with it and trying to figure it out and how to show the civilian populace it can be done, right, in this small group. So if we can be done here in this manner, then it can be done outside. And usually civilians follow suit. So there's a little bit of history there to find out kind of like where this concept even came from. But we were already working on it before. But of course, people are people, right? And some people are just, for multiple reasons, they don't like change. They don't, for whatever. Right. So, but I really want to, kind of talk, because I've had personal experiences. I've talked to people who don't look like me and said, hey, what's your thoughts on the D&I initiative? And they have mentioned, I don't really care about it. And that doesn't mean that they're like racist or anything else like that. It doesn't mean that. How does this affect me? Right. It doesn't, I'm indifferent. I don't see the impact. Right. And it's not until I kind of explain some things and they still might not get it. I'm just saying, hey, this is why this is a thing. And they might be moved and they might not be moved. And I leave them to their own devices. I don't judge them. Right. You don't have the experience that I have or other people have experienced. That's not your fault. But I do want to kind of pivot to Chief McKean on this, because here's an expert. Here's the one who helps make decisions and makes decisions on some of the D&I initiatives or some of the big things that the Air Education Training Command wants to do, the big Air Force wants to do. It has to go through her. So I do want to kind of pivot to her and ask her, what are some of the initiatives that you think, ma'am, or you've seen that the United States Air Force and Space Force started to kick off in order to address some of the senior leadership's directives?
Well, first, I love the idea of the diversity, equality, and inclusion of what we are doing within the Air Force itself. I think it's really important for us to have an understanding that everyone, like Fernanda said, comes from different backgrounds and different mentalities and just different cultures and different ways of living. I can remember, for me, and you guys are probably gonna be like, oh my goodness, I would have never guessed that. I'm from New Mexico. And so myself, growing up in New Mexico, I was a minority. Growing up, most of the people in my community were Hispanic, and maybe about 30% of the population were white or Caucasian, and we had hardly any African Americans in our community at all. And so I can remember when I went to basic training, just as like a very brief story, on either side of me, I had two African American girls who slept on one side of me, and then the other slept on the other side. And I can remember one night, one of the girls said to me, her name was Airman Dixon. She said, hey, tonight I'm going into the bathroom after lights out and I'm going to comb my hair. And I was like, okay. So the next day I see her, and she looks the same to me as she did yesterday. And I said, I thought you said you were going to perm your hair last night. And she said, I did. And I said, no, you didn't. and she looked at me for a minute and she was like, oh, you know what? She was like, okay, I get it. When you perm your hair, it's curly. When we perm our hair, it's straight. And I was like, Oh, okay. Like I had no idea. I was just like completely ignorant to like this, whole thing. Right. And just based off of like what my own experience was, I'm telling her what she did or what she didn't do. Right. And so that's one of the things that I have loved the most about the Air Force is my ability to, overcome my own ignorance about a lot of things, because of what your personal experiences have been. Right. And so, I know like for the recruiting service, they are extremely focused on ensuring that exactly what you said, Fernanda. Like, I don't know that I could have said it any better than what you said in terms of like, we need to have different frames of thought. We need to have people who come from different backgrounds to be able to provide different ideas and, points of view and things like that to help make us be the absolute best that we can be. And so, it's funny that you bring up this topic, Captain Sludge, because when General Cantwell and I are on the road, when we go to detachments, that's one of the things that we're looking at. We're like, what's the diversity within this detachment? And, we want to see a sea of faces that look different from one another. And we want our cadets to have that opportunity. And so a lot of that comes down to like the recruiting officers, right? Like, they have a responsibility to try to get out there and to like, hey, have you ever considered the Air Force, just to talk to them about like, hey, here's some of the opportunities that exist out there. Some schools, I'm not going to lie. Like if you go to, the college that's out in Grand Forks, North Dakota, about 90% of their students are white. If not more, right? And that's just like, that's the pool that you have to try to draw people in from. And so, I think, we have to absolutely do the best that we can to try to get as, people that don't look like exactly the same as you look in, because it is extremely important. And I think too, one of the things that's very difficult, and I'm sure you guys have probably seen some of this too, but like for us, we have within ROTC, we have our historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs. And we have detachments at those schools because we want to encourage people to join the Air Force and to want to serve and so on and so forth. And sometimes, one of the biggest limitations that we have in some of those schools are test scores, specifically on the AFOQT. And so I have, some concerns is the standardized test limiting our ability to get the best talent that we can out there. And so, that's something I know like Colonel Ramsby, he, the team is definitely tracking on that and, wanting to make sure that we're not limiting people's opportunities based off of a standardized test. And so I think that there's a lot more that can be done, but I think that we very much are trying to get after it to make sure that that we are affording opportunities for our minorities out there to have a sense of wanting to be able to serve and to feeling like they can be successful.
And I think that's a pretty funny, way to kind of express it. Cause I think about it and what's humorous about it, that's of course not the D&I portion of it. It's the fact that Fangman always talks to me about this. She alludes to it whatever. She doesn't even try to. And I'll ask her a question and I was like, why don't you want to go there? She's like, cause I'm not that way, but she's a big advocate of just her university, right? And she has expressed many times in many different ways that, like I need different people from different places to do different things. So I think that's kind of funny. You can see her nodding her head because she's told me in many different ways that like it's hard to exist when there's not different kinds of people in her life. So
yeah.
So I think that's pretty funny.
I wanted to add on to that because thinking about it, because I'd come from Arkansas before I was here. So obviously very, very different. But before that I was in Japan. So very diverse, very used to it. I think that as detachments too, right? Like we have that responsibility of at UNLV, we're very diverse. So bringing that kind of like experience or mentality into active duty, sharing our experiences or whatever, I think that's kind of like a responsibility of us as well. Not just, hey, yeah, like, I was around a bunch of different people and kind of keep that to myself. Because what good does that do? Because, when I am interacting with those people from South Dakota or whatever, right, they don't understand that. And I think that would help bring awareness to it as well from the inside.
Yeah,
That's
like
cool.
this
Yeah.
this reminds me of like, so before I applied for ROTC, I was trying to get to the Air Force Academy, and I got rejected last minute. And honestly, at the time, I was like devastated because you put in so much work, you have to get congressional nominations and whatever. But then I remembered back to my, I was able to go to one of their summer seminars, and like you're here with a big group of people, like hundreds of potential cadets, and I felt really alone despite the population there, just because there was no diversity pretty much. Like there was only me and one other African American kid, and we were like best friends. But that sense of belonging was hugely what I lacked. And then once, I got over the rejection of not getting to use USAFA and I started going through ROTC here at UNLV, I was like, things happen for a reason. Like that is actually the blessing in disguise that I think if I was there, that sense of belonging I would not have had, and I would have felt so alone. And here, like I truly see it as my family and all these cadets. I'm like, I love seeing all the different colors, all the different cultures and everything. Like that makes me feel at home. And I'm like, you know what? Everything happens for a reason. I am happy I did not get accepted into the Air Force Academy. So
yeah. And one of the articles that I looked up was primarily about the Air Force's Academy and their attack on D&I. Like, what is really going on here? And I think that the leading questions that I have for you guys, well, I think this will bust the whole thing wide open so that we can get to a point where we got a solution on what we would think if we had infinite resources and infinite money, what we would do. Because that's what I'm going to ask you guys. With infinite resources and infinite money, what would we do in order to attack this issue? I want to kind of double back a little bit. We all saw the good that D&I brings, like the concept of it, but we got to address the elephant in the room because it's sitting there crapping in our room and peeing in our room, right? We have to address it. Why are people against D&I in the first place? Why are people against the initiative in the first place? And I'm not just talking about a certain group of people. There are people across the whole spectrum that are like, no, we don't really need it. And let's get the basics out of the room. I don't want to talk about those because those are we already know those: racism, sexism, homophobic, and religious ideologies. We know those exist, right? I don't want to spend time saying folks, we know that already, right? There's nothing we can do about that from that perspective. But I want to focus on the debatable topics, the people who ask, what's the point or whatever. So what do you guys think, besides the topics that are the issues or the reasons that I noted earlier, would people naturally be against any kind of D&I initiative? What do you guys think?
I'll take a stab at it. First off, I would say representation matters, right? Like Cadet Maceros said, when you can see someone and kind of picture yourself as you are seeing a vision of yourself into the future, right? Like, okay, if I don't see this, how can I be that? And the bare bones easiest way to learn, I'm thinking about my son. When he starts walking, he's watching us walk. When he starts talking, he's mimicking us. So seeing is believing. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, as far as getting after the D&I initiative and why should we do it? I would say, like I said, untapped potential that we don't know under what set of cultural differences. Like that could be the next engineer that cracks the code on a SpaceX rocket and the ability to get to Mars. We just don't know where that potential is. And I look to myself and my history of, growing up in New Orleans, being underprivileged youth, growing up without my dad, and then being this, right? I guarantee you 100% no one saw this happening for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm serving my country. I'm doing all these different things. I'm having a good time doing it. I have this family. I have, you just never know. And the military brats that are on the channel, like you get this exposure. And if you weren't a part of the military and this cultural diaspora that we have, you wouldn't have these experiences to be able to go to those when you encounter different people. So what I would say is untapped potential, and you just want to just make sure that you just have those experiences together because you never know what it's going to produce, the derivatives that are going to come out of it.
Cool. Wade, what you got? Looks like you were ready to get at it.
Yeah, but the thing that I was thinking initially, those are good points, is I'm pretty sure most of us have seen that video where General Brown, he's having a discussion with some senators in Congress, and they're asking him, like, where are you getting these numbers on diversity from? If you want 25% of African Americans to serve in officer roles or whatever, and the senator asks him, where are these coming from? Why does this matter? And he basically says, why don't we just put the most qualified people who can do the job in these positions? And seeing things like that, I think if we're putting aside, the racism and the discrimination, I think those are also topics that fight against the D&I. Maybe people just don't want to push the initiative. They'd rather, whoever's most capable and most ready to do the job at the moment, I think that's something that fights it as well. But I mean, that kind of opposes what the military is here for. We're civil servants. So I think opening up those opportunities for different cultures and backgrounds is better because, I mean, I think we put military installations in cities that are rough. You know, Nellis right here, where I'm sitting, it's not in the best part of town, but I think you put it there so that you can benefit the community and they can see some good of what's going around them. Like, the military is not here so that we can just get the best of the best and go out and do our job. It's so that we can execute our mission, but also make our country better with the people that are involved with it. I think the next problem, I only have two, is probably, yes, what B said is the envisionment at the young age. And I think I was lucky enough to have that I'm fourth generation Air Force. So I've had a lot of exposure to it, but I think it's the exposure at the next level as well. Because even where I'm sitting, we're in Nellis, Nevada, home of the fighter pilot and rated officers. We got Creech. And I still to this day have never seen a person in a flight suit the same color as me. I just haven't. I don't know how and I don't know why. My dad is the only person that I've seen with colored skin in a flight suit. And it's really weird. And I mean, I've gone to red flag and I've gone to green flag and I've, gone to these exercises. And when I step into the debrief room, I mean, all the pilots are white, which isn't a bad thing.
They're qualified, right? I mean, they're qualified to do the job.
They're qualified. And I know that when I join the club too, they're going to be, welcoming with open arms. But it gives you that sense of, it's like when I was young and we were stationed in Nebraska, Omaha, and me and my sister were the only two colored kids at our school. And I was like, it's just a weird feeling. So the exposure at the next level is big as well. And that's something that I think we should push the initiative.
Okay.
Yeah, people are resistant to change, just we get stuck in our ways. We're creatures of habit. I mean, all of us are guilty of it. I mean, that's part of the reason why I wake up and work out like Chief. Every morning I'm waking up. I'm a creature of habit. I like the same thing over and over again. So I have a predictable outcome that I can kind of set my mind to. So people are resistant to change, but it takes you guys, the next generation, kind of, push that narrative forward. Like, hey, we want representation of different people in those upper echelon leadership positions. We want to go to the high schools, the elementary schools, and inspire people, because that's what it is. Seeing is believing. I'm telling you, I can't say that enough. When I walk around in my flight suit and people see me, they're like, what do you do? Like, you're in the military? And they're just taken back by the aura. I don't know what it is. The uniform, wearing your nation's cloth is a big deal. So when people see it and you see me, and then I start to talk to them and I'm just a regular guy, they're like, wow, I can't believe you were like this, man. I mean, how do I become like you? Like, what do you want to know? I'll give you whatever you want to know. So it's good. That's another reason why I'm in a community involved in coaching my kids' soccer teams and basketball teams and baseball. Me and my wife, we believe in just making sure we put a good representation of our family, because we have a blended family. My wife is Caucasian and I'm Black, and all our kids are multiracial. So when we're out there and they see us interacting and doing stuff, everybody's like, oh, wow. The Rousers are so cool. And I mean, we are, right? I just got to toot our own horn. Yeah. We are cool. But, it's just to see that people I think they gravitate towards it. And, secretly I can have the haters over there, but I'm not concerned with the haters. I'm concerned with reaching the people that have a shared mindset. Like, hey, dude, we're here to get in the nation's business. The other stuff, it matters, but ultimately, the ultimate goal is get after what we're here for.
Yeah. A lot of the cadets don't probably know, and I haven't shared that story with a lot of them, but when I got hired by Colonel Williams had D&I in mind. A lot of people did not know that. And Colonel Joshua Williams is a white guy, but he understood what the strategic objective was when he went to his hiring process. I'm not saying that's the only reason why. Oh yeah, he felt the energy. He felt it, right? He knew that, like, and when he left, he said, if I could keep you as the RO, I would keep you as the RO, and I would not change anything, because that's exactly why I hired you, because you have the energy and you have the you represent what I would want in this day, right? So in order to diversify it, more than it is already. And personally, if I could be honest, I felt like I did not do as well of a job as I was designed to do. And it partially is because I didn't have enough time as RO. I literally had 6 months as RO before I had to go to OFC. But who replaced me? That was Captain Sutton. Again, hitting the objective, right? But the cadre was so limited in number, we could not be expeditionary. We were stuck in the office and we had to just bring everything to the website. And that's not effective either, right? The question is, are we being effective? And at that point in my life, my personal opinion, no, we were not, because we couldn't. We were stuck, right? And then we lost our GBRs, kind of went away because, I mean, Ballesteros, you remember, you told me Lopez was the one who brought me on here, right? Just having Lieutenant Lopez at the time as our GBR, like, who was able to go out there, again, represent like a certain demographic and say, I did it, you can do it too. But we lost that too due to development of the Air Force and where it wanted to go. And we complied, but we took a hit for that too. So, but now this generation where I feel like I failed, there's a new RO coming up, right? And we are at the point where we're expeditionary again. We have the bandwidth again. So Captain Chronister, who her mom, she'll clearly say, hey, my mom is Colombian, right? And yes, my dad is white, but like I connect to those who are HSI and things like that. And my intent is to get out there and get at it. And I was like, you're going to have plenty of time to do RO. You're going to be able to be successful where I feel like I was not successful because I just didn't have time. So I had to do it on my own, Chief. I didn't just sit there and take it dying. I didn't die. Me and Captain Clonister just went to Shadow Ridge the other day, right? Shadow Ridge High School, just to visit, right? And I did that throughout the time. I didn't go because I was the RO. I went because that was my job and my obligation to do so, right? So I had to do my own part, but I'm saying as an RO, I didn't feel like I was effective just due to a bunch of other things. I had to do it as a person, an individual. I had to make my own move in order to make that happen. So when I walked through those halls and they were like, man, that's crazy. Like you can tell, right? It was like, okay, cool. You send them the right image, went by to visit the Air Force JROTC, let them know, hey, this is the new RO, right? And here's here's who you need to connect with to send the right message. Just a personal story there where I wish I did a little bit more as my time is wearing down. As a representative of ROTC, as a representative of me, I think I did fine.
Well, sir,
can I say this to that?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Everybody jump in at the third time.
Sometimes people, I think society or the media in general associates DEI with you're not qualified, right? Like you don't meet the criteria. Like, hey, we give you this secret pathway to you're going to get it, right? Like you said, strategically, I know what the objective is. And I know I'm trying to create an example and representation so the masses see you, but people associate DEI with, oh, you're not qualified. You're just giving it, right? But no, you've earned it. You have the criteria. You have the resume. It's giving you an opportunity to interview for the spot and see if it's a natural fit and if what can we get after in objectives in the future. So that's something that we should dispel in our respective AORs. Like, hey, dude, DEI is not a secret pathway to the top, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get promoted as a chief because I'm African American. It's not going to happen.
Right. That's not
I have to have breadth and depth of experience, and I have to have those markers where the Air Force says, like, yeah, you have the potential to serve in the next higher grade, and oh, by the way, you're African American. They're not going to just promote me because I'm this, right? That just doesn't happen. And you're not going to get hired just because of that. So I just want to throw that out there. Go ahead, Chief. Sorry.
Oh, no. That's I think, really important to note. One of the things I was going to say to Captain Sludge is thank you for what you're doing. A lot of people, say things like, what are our recruiters out there doing? Let me tell you, like our recruiters are working hard, right? And one thing that's very interesting is if you go into like, any type of a town market, say like San Antonio, we may have like 3 or 4 recruiters there. Well, let me tell you, the Army has like 12. And, the Navy might have 7 and, the Marines are going to have 5, right? And so, by going out and telling your Air Force story to JROTC cadets, I would encourage all of you to do that. Like if there's a JROTC that's, in your hometown or where you are, like go and get involved and talk to them about like, hey, here's some opportunities. And I know for you, Fernanda, you mentioned that you were in JROTC. I don't know if you had any recruiters that came and talked to you while you were there, but I can tell you by and large, when General Cantwell and I go out and we talk to folks in JROTC, we'll ask our seniors, we'll ask them to please stand up and please tell us, what are you going to do in the next year, right? Because you're at a decision point of your life of what's next.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how many of them say, it breaks my heart. They're like, I'm in the delayed enlistment program for the Marines, and I'm in the delayed enlistment program for the Army. And I'm like, what? And after like the fifth or sixth one of them says that, I'm like, I'm sorry. Is there like a recruiter that comes here to your school? And they'll be like, oh yeah, Sergeant Hernandez comes and sees us every month, and he's so awesome, and that's why I'm joining the Marines. And I'm like, is there an Air Force recruiter who comes to your school? No. We've been in touch with him, but he never comes. And that's not me. I am absolutely not trying to, dig on the Air Force recruiters. I think they're extremely busy. They're working really hard. They are getting a plus up in their manning to get like 100 new recruiters, Air Force recruiters added over the next year. And then with our gold bar recruiters, right? So like our folks, like maybe for you, Wade, maybe you might have this opportunity while you're waiting for a chance to go to pilot school, right? Like maybe you can work in your debt and be a recruiting officer that gets to go out there and says like, hey, let me tell you about this opportunity. Why don't you come on over here to ROTC so I can talk to you a little bit about, like this is what it's done for me. This is the trajectory that I'm on. But every single one of you are going to have an opportunity to tell your story, tell your Air or your Space Force story, because you have the power to serve as so much better of a recruiter than our actual recruiters actually could. Because, all of you are going to have a story to tell and, experiences, and people will look at you and say, oh my gosh, if this person can do that, then maybe I could do it too. And I would just want to say that I think that is so important for you guys to share your story and to be willing to go out there, and to get involved. So I would just say, if there's a JROTC, there at Shaw, get involved. Fernando, when you get to Barksdale, like I'm telling you, if you guys get an opportunity to go, it's so wonderful. I truly love it. Also at Langley for you, Hakeem, like it's really great stuff. And, that would be what I would just encourage, because that's the way that we're going to get after effective, diversity, equality, and inclusion, is for people to tell their stories, and for something that you say to resonate with them and to make them feel like, you know what, I could do this. If she can do this, maybe I could do it too.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people feel like the policy is caked on versus being built in, which, hey, if I could reverse time, it was like, well, to change one thing and it wouldn't affect anything else. Was like, hey, when the Air Force was established, hey, this, right, and put it into its constitution. But it was something that was caked on later on. We always had the mindset of doing it a certain way, but you can still see that certain things are caked on and versus being baked in. And I teach my cadets that about that all the time. Like, if you can bake it in to the Constitution, bake it in, as much as you can, because you're going to have to cake it on later on if you don't. So now you have our development now we're trying to cake it on, but we can bake some things in, because the Air Force, as far as we know, has a future. So we just, there's a way to attack it, in my opinion, and we can discuss it here in a second. But I want to kind of pivot to Hakeem here, because he's kind of been just kind of listening and soaking it all in. Great. My question for you was your recruiting station close to you, or did you have to travel to it? Did your recruiter go to your school? What got you into the Air Force?
So my recruiter came to my school. It was actually an Army recruiter. Okay. I took the ASVAB, everything with the Army recruiter. And then my uncle, he's a firefighter right now, works for the city as well. He kind of ear hustled and just was told that Air Force is a better route. I was young, naive. I didn't know. I was 20 at the time. And I didn't know any better, so I just listened to him as well. And that's kind of what set my path. Like, I didn't have any prior military people in my family, so I was real naive to the whole process.
Okay. So here we go.
I did.
And that's what I want to attack, right? What are some of the biggest barriers that inhibit everyday D&I in the recruiting stages of development? Bienville mentioned it earlier, mentalities and you guys already said mentality and exposure. That is like the chief, in my opinion, the chief thing that says, wow, there's a person in a blue or black, uniform that looks clean, man. He looks like me. She looks like me. You know what I mean? Wow. Like you said, Chief, I can do that too. I think I can do that too. If I can see it and it looks believable, this person has ascended to this level. And now that I see it, I can do it too. Because they came and spent some time with me and told me I can do it. That's just mentality and exposure. So I think that's the cornerstone of a lot of it. A lot of people have mentioned the difference is in this person came to see me at one particular time or another. When I went to high school, I went to Brother Rice High School in Chicago. I saw them. They came by and saw me. So, and it wasn't until later on when I was in San Diego that I said, okay, I'm going to join the Air Force because I remembered that moment. Mm-hmm. So, I still had to travel. I'm in Maine, Southeast San Diego. I still had to go to National City, which is way like kind of down across town. It wasn't just sitting in San Diego. It wasn't just sitting there right in my neighborhood, right in my block. I had to go take the bus, 2 or 3 buses down there to go talk to them and hope and pray that they were there because they're so busy. Right. but guess like you said, Chief, guess who was available? Guess who was right there? The Army was right there. They was right there. Oh, the Air Force, they busy. Come on, talk to us. Come on over here. I feel like those top 2 things kind of inhibit the everyday D&I in this recruiting stage of development. Are there any other things that y'all can think about that would inhibit people from just, or you see as barriers to just getting through before I list out the rest of them I think are out there? What do you guys think?
I feel like I know we keep talking about it, but more effective outreach, right? Because I really resonated with what Chief McKean, what you said was like primarily Army, primarily Marines, people saying that's their futures. And I remember as a JROTC cadet, I would go to tournaments because it was either for drill or for the PT teams. And I would talk to the other JROTC cadets and they would be like, yeah, we see this and this and this person. But whenever we reach out to the Air Force recruiter, they never answer back to us. Oh, they don't do this and that. And I'm like, oh, dang. Like, again, the only exposure I got was because through JROTC, Air Force JROTC, that was in my specific high school. But if not, I would have known about it. So, and when I say also effective outreach, we also need to offer them more resources because a lot of people say, oh, Army and Marines are easier to get into. And they don't have to think about all the technical, right, expertise that the Air Force really wants their candidates to have, right? So maybe more resources of, okay, maybe your ASVAB is slow, or maybe you want to, in the future, you're going to have to do AFOQT. I recommend these resources for you to actually start looking at the things so you're actually able to pass the test. Not just saying, here you go, like you need to almost provide a pathway because, again, we just don't know. And I really want to resonate with something that Chief B said about people think that when you already start implying like diversity into your, processes, products, people, that it's just because like it's that diversity card rather than because you're qualified. I remember when I was applying to, again, the Air Force Academy, you had to go talk to your congressional folks to get a nomination. And the very first one I had, it was for a senator. I'm not going to say his name, but this still stuck to me to this day. I go into his office and I feel like I was fairly well in high school. I had a 4.7 unweighted GPA. I did all these things, JROTC. I was like, I feel like I am qualified. He doesn't even look at my package. He just looks at me. He's like, you do know you have to have citizenship to apply to the academies, right? I'm like, yes, I do. He replied that question 3 other times. He's like, I just want to make sure you need to be a citizen of the United States of America to be here. I'm like, yes, I will not be here if that wasn't the case. He opens my packet, starts reading my packet, right?
It's crazy.
He basically finishes off by saying, I do not think you're going to be a good candidate for the Air Force Academy due to your background. I think you're going to be unqualified because of your background. Then goes off to say, I think you're not going to be qualified for UNLV because of your background. I think you'll be underqualified. I don't think you should even go to a community college because of your background. You're not going to be qualified. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
It was to the point where I don't even say anything. I'm like, thank you, sir. Give him a packet and leave, right? But simple interactions like that can really break you down, right? That kind of fuels me more to be like, okay, whatever, I'm going to I was pretty down afterwards, right? But it's simple interactions like that can either make it or break it for somebody that'd be like, screw it, I'm not even going to join the military in the first place because this is the first interaction.
Absolutely.
And we just need to be really watchful.
Fernanda,
look at you now.
Send them an email. Send them your bars.
So this was, I did not laugh because of that situation being funny.
Yeah,
I laughed because I hope that you will send this person a letter with a picture of you when you commission and tell him how well you have done and what your plans are, and that his impression of you was completely off,
endorsed by the chief.
Like just completely off the mark. I am so sorry that was your experience, but I am so proud of you for just being like, you know what? I don't care what you say. I am going to be the absolute best that I can be, and proving him so wrong. Like, kudos to you. Like, I'm so proud of you for that. And you should be proud of yourself. And I'm so sorry that was your experience, because that's just completely unacceptable.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Hey, did you know this, Steve Harvey? You know Steve Harvey, right? Everybody knows who he is, right?
And the rest of
one of his
story.
Young teachers. Yes. One of his young teachers told him, because he said, I want to be on TV one day. He said, you'll never be on TV. And when he finally got on TV, bought a TV and sent it to his instructor. And every year, to this day, he still sends a TV to her. Now that's petty and it's hilarious because he's on TV. So you can see me. I made it. But again, a small gesture just like that, write him or her and just say, look, here's my bars. I made it. Here's some pictures. And when you get promoted, hey, I got promoted. Hey, I got promoted again. I'm totally qualified to do this. Looks like I'm qualified, right? Hanging 10. Those things, like you said, there's a make or break, a critical point in your life, and you decided to not accept it and do something about it. Vice versa, and I go back and forth, and I always tell her, hey, not everybody wants to see you win, just naturally. It is what it is, and it's unfortunate. But just to see that because of that, right? Not being wanting to see you win because of that is rough. It's always a tough pill to swallow, but it is what it is. But you did it. Right. We're well on your way. And it probably took that in order for you to realize, and that'll be with you for the rest of your life. I do want to continue to talk about some more of these barriers. We talked about mentalities, exposure. We talked about recruiting locations. What about medical barriers?
Medical barriers. I mean, obviously, DODMERB and all that is a process, and MEPS and whatever the route you go through. But health insurance and all that, that's big stuff too. But I think, Chief, the initiative that we have now with the contracting cadets, getting TRICARE and all of that, I think that's a really, really, really big step, because right now I don't have any health insurance. I just got kicked off of my family's TRICARE.
Now you turned 23.
Because, 23 in college. Yeah, I turned 23. So now that jeez, what a bad age. And I get to ride without health insurance for, a month until I commission. And then I'll get back on TRICARE. It's like, man, you couldn't just let me hang out for a couple months. So yeah, the health is one itself. I think the finances too is a part of it. I mean, we talked about it on the episode with the Cohens and previous wing commanders, but the price of a commission we said at UNLV itself is $13,000 a year, I believe, right?
It's a lot.
Something now around like
schools,
$60,000 for your full 4 years. So $60,000 for a commission. And if you're not getting, scholarships or any of that, then guess what? That's money that you got to pay. Me, I was lucky because my parents' GI Bill, and I've worked a lot in high school. I worked a lot of jobs to save up, but not everybody has the opportunities to go out and pay to be in college and go through ROTC. And that was something that I was thinking about. I was like, man, I have to pay to go to Lead Lab. Man, this is crazy. Yeah. But now I think another great thing that, General Cantwell and Chief, everybody's doing is that we have the scholarship that pays for cadets' tuition after they contract and they come back from field training. So now that's just another recruiting tool that you can put out there and say, hey, if you can meet these qualifications, we'll get you through. You just got to put in the work. And I think it's not carrot at the end of the stick leadership, but it kind of is, and it gives them multifactorial.
Yeah, I think that in college. Sorry,
and then
I cut you off.
Even the the scholarships. And I mean, another one that I guess Chief and everybody else is doing up in AFROTC HQ is the You Can Fly scholarships. Those kind of things are just more gateways, because I promise you, I don't think that I would have received a pilot slot if You Can Fly wasn't there. Because it's not like I'm going to go out and ask my mom for $10,000 to go get flight hours to get my PICSM. And changing the requirements for the PICSM score, the pilot candidate selection method, changing the flight hours was a massive step. Because as I'm trying to get my hours, I'm looking over to the buddies to my left and right that I'm competing against, and homeboys got like 250 hours. And I'm like, what?
Well, I have to tell you, they're going into debt for that. Like, we've had opportunities to go out to, last fall, we went out to Embry-Riddle at Prescott, and I learned of a lieutenant who was $250,000 in debt so that he could fly.
Pilot bonus.
And
Wow.
You're going to need
That's
that.
not smart.
So
You're going to need that 35 a year.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Okay. So what I brought up medical was because there are some medical questions. For example, Dodberg. Everybody fears Dodberg, right? You know, it's a big thing, but particularly in the community, like I know for those who have shaving waivers, to this day, we still don't have the answer. For those who are asking for shaving waivers, we don't know. So across the debts, we have asked, like, what about cadets who need shaving waivers? Because normally the folks who need shaving waivers are of African American descent. There's some that are across the other racial groups, but primarily who need a shaving waiver is of Black Americans. So they don't even ask for it because they're afraid that Don Moore is going to kick them out because we don't know the answer. As in, can I apply for a waiver for this, or is it going to terminate my ability to be able to become an officer? Or should I just bear with it, shave when I'm not supposed to shave, and then finally get a waiver when I go into active duty? It's crazy. We don't have the answer for that. And it might be somewhere, but it's not clear. So we can't even tell our cadets that, hey, no, you can go get a shaving waiver from your doctor. We put it in the DOTMERB, and DOTMERB will not punish you for that. You can enlist that way because a lot of people enlisted have shaving waivers.
I got one.
Yeah, see, and I have one, right? So it's crazy. It's crazy how unclear that is. But it creates a barrier. It creates a medical barrier where people do not want to even bother with it. And we mentioned it, we alluded to this before, testing barriers. Now, I know we have, in order to get to the Air Force, you have the ASVAB enlisted, right? Which you can test infinite amount of times. You can test, and as far as we know, there's no limit to testing. I could be wrong, but as far as I remember, but that AFOQT, sometimes I question it. I question what it's trying to get at, because I noticed that a lot of people in general can't get past that AFOQT. But what are we trying to do as officers? What kind do we want? Super smart officers, or do we want officers of character who can lead people? I don't know. What are we trying to get at? What I question the purpose nowadays. So especially if all the other schools are saying we don't need SATs and ACTs anymore to enter, because we realize that, lack of exposure is causing these test issues. So now I'm questioning what are we doing here? And are we trying to make it better? And I know the Home Center is like thinking of these things and changing these things, but I sit there and think about that too, because it affects, some people who are like really, really good character people. They are really strong officers, like their officer potential, but they got a 9 on their math and they can't get through. It's like, it breaks my heart because they're really good people. So I question that too. And then once you get the people, their retainability, how do you keep them? So here's a story real quick. I mentioned this before in the last episode. I was on alert with Colonel Sauls, who was the 90th Ops Group Commander when I was at F.E. Warren. I was on alert with him, and we was just shooting the breeze. He was a white guy shooting the breeze. And he kind of told me, we got to this topic about retaining minority missileers. He's like, we have a hard time retaining them because we don't have the resources to hold them, because these bases don't support like their groups and how they recharge. And it's just not hanging at Minot. It's not hanging at F.E. Warren. It's not hanging at Malmstrom. It's not there. There's no one's fault. There's nothing we can do about it. There's like, it's very difficult to attack. I was like, it can be attacked. So how do we increase the retainability of women and minorities and all the folks that are under that group in order to continue to serve in that portion? Because it's one thing to get them. It's another thing to retain them and keep them on the books, keep them wanting to serve. So those are what I thought serve as barriers. And you guys noted a lot of those. I'm not the type to present issues and concerns without, of course, bringing solutions forward. So I want you all, as we wrap this part of the section up, is to think about what you guys would do if we had infinite resources and we had all the things in a perfect day, in a perfect Air Force. What is the one thing you would throw out there in order to help with this situation, right? So that in 20 or 30 years, this thing is not even a thing anymore. It's what we wanted and more. What would you guys throw in there in order to alleviate the situation?
I can think of one thing. That's kind of interesting. So during the February ASA session that occurred in Denver, Colorado, there was this very brave Airman First Class who stood up and she had a question for General Alvin. And if I had to venture to guess, I would say that she was probably from a East European country. You can very much tell that English was not her first language. But she got up and she shared that her first duty station, which is where she is right now, is Cannon Air Force Base. And she talked about a lot of the challenges that they have there and the high number of airmen suicides that occur at Cannon. And so she very respectfully and really profoundly requested that General Alvin look at the length of time that our airmen serve at locations that are the more, we'll say, desolate locations that people like don't want to go to, like the Minots, like the Malmstroms and the Cannons and the Weissmans of the world, of like, hey, could there be a term limit for the amount of time that someone spends at this base? And it immediately made me think of the 7 years that I spent at Holloman and of how, like, I was like, oh man.
7.
Yes. 7 years at Holloman. I did 4 years at Mountain Home. So I've done my fair share of the more desolate bases. And those were my first 2 bases. So the first 2, like the first 11 years of my career were at, very, we'll just say not what we would consider garden spot locations. Right. And so, I think that that's a great thing to look at. Is like, and maybe that's for everybody, right? Like you have and I know it all comes down to money, but we said if money wasn't an option, a challenge, right? Then like, having an opportunity for these airmen that are at those locations, if you're a missileer, a missile officer, you may feel frustrated because you feel like these are the only places that I have to go for the next 20 years, right? Look at other opportunities for those people to do something else for a little while. With a thought process of like, hey, we're going to professionally develop them. We're going to give them an opportunity to do something else for a while. And now they're going to come back to their career fields that much stronger. And now they've had an opportunity to see what some of the rest of the Air Force is as well. I think that would give people a break. Yeah. From those locations, allow them to see something else of the Air Force while also helping them to develop and to be the best that they can be.
Wonderful. Fangman, what do you think? What is one thing you would, if you wanted to increase, she's still there she is. What would you want to add to add some diversity into the mix?
I think the biggest thing is representation. Good point, Chief, of the location. I didn't even think of that. Captain, I can't think of her name. She was talking to her class and was like, I never had female leadership. Chronister, there we go. She never had female leadership. Cadet Ballesteros, that representation at the Air Force Academy, you never saw it, right? So honestly, I think that's one of the biggest things because it also motivates you to stay in. If it's distributed everywhere, right? Not just those certain locations or detachments or whatnot. I think that it's a motivation to stay in and to keep doing the thing.
Cool. Representation.
B,
what do you think, Chief? Yeah, what you got, Chief?
So if I got all the money in the world.
Got all the money in the world.
You give me all the money in the world.
You making decisions.
I got it. Since I got all the money in the world for members in the military, especially and I want to focus on my first term enlisted and officers. We fund them being able to go back home for a period of time, right? Like, so you earn 30 days of leave. So basically it would be like, hey, you can spend as much time or as little time as you want, but the Air Force would pay for that plane ticket to get back home. So if you're married or you got kids, because sometimes we have young airmen with families of 4, right? 2 kids, a wife. Hey, Air Force will go, here you go. Go to ITTT on base, ITT. It will do your tickets, go see family, recharge the batteries. You get 30 days of leave and then come back, a little bit fresher, a little bit more motivated, because when you're in those austere environments like Maelstrom, Holloman, Cannon, the travel itself and being able to get to Lubbock on time or get to El Paso on time to then fly, on the West Coast or the East Coast, it's difficult. And that's a huge burden on people. So if you had that readily available to you, I think people would say, wow, okay, you know what? I think I'm going to stay with the military just a little bit longer. And I want to segue that into what I personally do for my troops and my airmen in my unit. So McDonald's and Burger King and all these places out there, right? And they have a robust benefits package, right? Like, hey, if I'm at McDonald's, dude, I might ask you to wear a tie and show up to work and, flip some burgers, but I'm not moving you all over. I'm not asking you to do it. I'm not asking you to do all this other stuff. So what I try to do is the things that I can control at the SCO level, as far as interacting with AFPC, as far as making sure their pay is right, as far as hearing them out, hearing their story, getting to know them, that establishing that personal rapport. That's what they care about. Like, because I can never pay you about like whatever you want, and I can never always get you where you want to go. But when the people that you work with on a day-to-day basis care about you, like I care about your family, like I know all my members, I know their families, I know their kids, I know their spouses, I know what they care about, what they don't care about. I also, I personally watch them execute the mission, right, on a day-to-day basis, and they care about that. They're like, oh, man, Chief, he cared about it. Man, he cared that I did a great intel read. He cared that we had this great strike that went off and nothing happened. Like, and he personally sought me out and said, great job. Like, those things matter. I know it's simple, but those things matter. Retention within my unit. I have a great level of retention within my unit just from that grassroots, organic, establishing a rapport with people. People are people. Getting to know them and things like that. So that's how I'm doing it without all the money. But if I had all the money, I want to put you on a plane back home. I said,
okay, that's cool. All right, Ballesteros, what would you do given your experiences I just heard about just now?
Well, I think I'll just focus mine on like the POC period. Like once everybody's done with their FTP year, I have seen so many people, even when I went to field training, when it's specifically the ones that are diverse with the AFOQT, like they are not passing the verbal whatsoever, but they have like 2 tries or 1 try left and they still don't make it, and that's the reason why they've been kicked out, right? I've seen so many of those cases, and it because English is not their first language.
So many good people.
Honestly, maybe it's just me. I remember I did this briefing in front of Colonel Young where I was like, I don't see the need of the AFOQT anymore. I that's just my perspective, because at the end of the day, our cadets are getting a college degree. Every university has prereqs with English, with math, so they're still getting those big things, right? But then they're focusing on their specific degree plan. So it's like, what is the actual need? Why do they have to be at, like, I remember me doing my verbal, I did not even know any of those words there. I was like, what is the point of these words? I don't even use them in regular English language, right? I'm like, and this, don't get it, right? It was the hardest portion for me, more than the math. English. So it's like, again, what is the purpose? If the purpose is for our officers to have a college degree for them to be qualified, why do we have this other standardized test when standardized testing isn't even that big trend anymore in the big world? So I would get rid of it.
Yeah.
Allocate the AP money elsewhere to have them go home, like as GP said.
Yeah.
Well, so I really like your train of thought there. And this is for you, Hakeem. I would just say, when you look to have an opportunity for commissioning, whether it's you look to do like SLEPO or whatever it is that you're wanting to be able to do, the words that these folks are saying to you right now about the AFOQT are really important. Because I have to tell you that I myself have been really frustrated when we have packages that come up to my level and I'm like, man, this person is awesome. They are out there leading cadets. They're doing amazing things. Their EPRs and their EPP is like on point. They have decorations that are phenomenal from deployments. And this is just like whole package. And their GPA has been great in college. To then have someone come to me and say, they met the minimums on their AFOQT, but we don't feel like their scores were high enough. And so we're not going to push them.
That's
and
so
I have
crazy.
I have literally said these words. Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that you place more value in a standardized test than you place on someone's already proven ability to lead. Is that what I am hearing you say?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's just the way it is. No, you are making it be that way.
Right.
So, I would just say, you do have, like, I know we mentioned, like, hey, there's so much fear about, like, how many times can you take the AFOQT? if you don't do well on it the first 2 times, there is a waiver process that you can go through to take it again. And they do super scoring, which means that they will combine all of your tests and the highest of each of the categories that you get. They'll add those to get, but they'll add it so that your super score is your highest test across the board. But if that is something that you are, if going to OTS or commissioning is something that you're interested in, this is very much going to be something that you're going to face. So, and these cadets that are already here, they have already faced this also. And, it's something that no one later on in your career, I'm sure that Captain Sledge can attest to this. None of his commanders are coming in and saying, Captain Sledge, tell me about your AFOQT scores.
Nope.
But I would just say that this conversation about the AFOQT will be relevant to you as you pursue the opportunity for a commission.
Yeah. I'll tell you this. I attempted to commission. I passed the AFOQT. I passed TBAS picks and all that stuff. Everything was good. Right. But when I applied twice and I didn't get it each time. And what I'll say is that, sometimes everything's not meant for you. Right. Like, so I'm not trying to deter you. I'm not trying to say like, hey, it may not happen or whatever. My personal story and personal testimony is I tried. I was like, dude, no rock left unturned. I wanted to commission just like Captain Sledge, right? Like we were in the same, that's somebody I'm looking to like, hey, bro, like, how do I do this? How do I get this package together in order to commission? And it's just so happened the Air Force said no, but well, get me now. Mm-hmm. Everything will happen when it's time and, just stay at it, study, make sure you're well prepared. But if you don't get it, just use it as fuel for the fire to keep going forward for other things.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. The general took a chance on me because my AFOQTs weren't that great. And I don't know if you guys remember, I posted it. I put my AFOQTs by my door. I did that on purpose so that you can see that I wasn't all that great. But when the general saw, at the time he was a colonel, when he saw my scores, he was like, yeah, but you have a great character. I'm going to take the gamble. And that's why I was able to thank him after 10 and a half years. I was able to thank him because he took a gamble on me and I was able to come back full circle. And all these cadets are being developed because of me, because of him, right? He made a decision. He took a risk. He took a gamble. And he didn't say, well, his scores are low, so he's not going to be competitive. Like, no, he said, no, absolutely send it. We'll see when we get there. And it worked out for me. So I personally think with Ballesteros, I don't know the purpose anymore. Why are we not gauging the right things that we want to look at? What do we want out of our officers to lead airmen? Yep. Thank you. So why not test them on that, right? That's just how I feel. Like, this dude is really good at algebra, so he should be a great leader. Like, that doesn't add up to me personally. Like, if you want to be a pilot, yes, you need to know certain things. If you want to be a range officer, yes, you need to know certain things. In addition to being a great person, right? A great leader of character in addition. So either I would argue, either we should eliminate it from being a non-rated or replace it with something that we want our officers to be so they can start conditioning their minds and knowing what certain things are so that now you have this certain baseline level of knowledge. Now we can sharpen you and get you to where you're supposed to be. By the time you commission, you truly know everything because it's been hardwired into you from all the way from testing to graduation. So that's just how I feel. Very good. I agree.
There's also the other end of the spectrum, right? Those that look amazing on paper, high GPA, high PFA, high FOPT, now the worst people in the whole wide world. And you're like, how did you get to this point and you're about to commission? There's so many of those. I'm like, we're still fighting both ends.
I think you make it a data point.
Your whole career.
Sorry, you think about it.
I think you make it a data point, right? Like it doesn't need to be the end all be all, like this kind of like no-go zone. But if you make it more of a data point, like, hey, this is just one factual data point. This person scored this. Okay, what about the other factors? And to what Captain Sledge was saying, to his point, the character is what we're chasing, right? Because you're going to have those certain AFSCs that are going to be STEM that you need to have a certain level of knowledge in order to do. But when it comes to leadership and some of the other jobs, and we want to make sure we ensure that we have the right person with the right character in order to get the job done. So I agree too.
Yeah.
Now that you guys mention it, though, that I think the number of people I'm just adding on to I don't have anything new, but the number of people that get debt dropped because of their bad character, I would say is probably equivalent to the people that get dropped because they can't pass AFROTC. At least at our time.
Well, it used to not be that way. We just got lucky with Colonel Young.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it depends on the colonel and the deck commander.
Yeah. So, okay, cool. So we'll leave it there. Everybody went. Everybody said what in the perfect day. Hakeem, did you say in a perfect day what you would do?
I did not.
Okay, I need to know what that is.
I was actually come to mind my first shirt. He took the time to basically upgrade our whole comm building. We have 2 separate buildings, but he renovated them per se, as far as just making it a cleaner environment and just pictures of our mission on the wall. We have 2 different, chill rooms, heritage rooms. And that's kind of what I would go with. It is update facilities around the Air Force. I think that can go a long way. I know it boosted my morale per se.
Okay, cool. All right, everybody went through. And I if I had infinite resources, I would put an Air Force counselor at every high school, every last one, and say right next to the civilian career, the high school career counselors. I put there you go, right there.
Would it
right
be active
there.
duty?
So,
would it be like an active duty military member or what?
If I could, it could be. I need all components to be represented because sometimes people just want to be, guard or reserve. They want to do it part time. That's cool. So, but just somebody to represent, somebody to wear this, right? And walk through there looking good, walking tall, right? All those cool things and say, cool, I'm sitting right next to your career counselors to let you know that this is an option, right? And you can come into my office anytime. Right. And we can talk about where you want to go.
I would go a step further and put it in the curriculum too.
And they teach, right? They teach something too. Like I would like it sounds like JROTC, what they're getting at. It sounds like JROTC, but not all schools have JROTC. Yeah. So it's like, no, if you don't have JROTC, cool, but at least you have some representation over there. And they're sitting there in your everyday life, giving you everyday leadership. And you saying, you know what? I idolize that person. That person knows how to wear a tie. That person knows how to dress. That person knows how to walk, right? They must know something, right? And I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. But these people say, that's okay. We're going to give you something while you figure it out, right? And we're going to pay you. And we're going to give you somewhere to live. And that people like that, but they don't even know that they have it. I put a person in every single high school. That's what I would do.
Captain Sledge, I would say that you even would be able to, similar to JROTC, you would be able to truly capitalize on that if you did similar to the JROTC model, where even if that person was a retiree that still wears the uniform similar to JROTC, because that would afford a lot of opportunities for our retirees instead of taking it from active duty or even guard or reserve. But I think that would be an awesome opportunity too, because I'm sure, Fernanda, you probably received a lot of guidance and mentorship and, even the knowing that you could apply for the Air Force Academy or do ROTC because of your SASE and your ASI.
Yeah, 100%. It was my NCOs, or Senior Master Sergeant Galvez and Senior Master Sergeant Anthony Stewart. They're the ones that were like, do not enlist. You have officer potential. Like, please go this route. Look at the academy. Look at ROTC. They're going to be the ones doing my first salute. I'm like, I told them, you both are doing it. I can't choose one. But even to that, they were so influential. And I'm like, without them, I would not be here.
Cool. All right. So with that, we'll close this one out and then we will lighten the load with the last activity of the day. Really simple. All right. The military office would you rathers. All right. It's simple and easy. All right, everybody's all excited about this part. This is like the best part. All right. Cool. So without further ado, let's get it started. You guys ready?
Ready.
All right. Easy. Okay. Question number 1. Would you rather work 4-day weeks or work 2 months on and 1 month off?
4-day weeks.
Yeah, 4-day weeks. Same.
4-day weeks.
4-day weeks.
What else? You said 4-day weeks? Okay. And then
I'm going to go with the 1 on, the 2 on, 1 off.
All right. Why you different?
If I could do that, hear me out. If I could do that, I could work my butt off for 2 months, active duty flying or whatever. And then for that 1 month off, I could get my airline job that has to comply with my military schedule. And I could fly 2 days out of the whole month. And then the rest of it is all family time, and I'll be richer than ever.
Right?
What's up?
Approved by your commander,
all right,
of course.
I got it.
Approved by his commander, of course.
And by Fernanda also.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right?
Like, I gotta go to work. You gotta go to work. I was like, you chose to do it this way. And I was like,
I was gonna say something if I could.
Okay,
I was gonna say the only reason I didn't choose the 1 month because I just came off paternity leave, and that 3 months I was just going stir crazy. Like
I get back to work.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Okay, Fangman.
That's a good
Same
point.
question for you. Would you rather work 4-day weeks or work 2 months on and 1 month off?
I would definitely do 4-day weeks. That would be, yeah. It's a good, because like for me, especially like the summer in college and high school, it drives me nuts because I need something to do constantly. So just having like time off during the week is a lot better than having 2 months on, 1 month off.
Okay, sweet.
I would say that my justification for the 4 days on, the 3 days off thing is just because, and I'm sure that B can attest to this, it does not matter if it's your time off.
You getting a call.
People are still, you're still getting a call. You're still have to reply to emails. You got to do all that.
Yep.
I was just doing that. I was just doing that. Hey, I'm off right now, guys. I'm just going to let you know. You see this work phone right here?
That's right.
This work phone, I'm off. I'm off.
I'll still get emails.
I'm on leave today. And still, this morning, there was stuff. So that's just the way it is. So, but I would love the 4 days, and then I get 3 days to sleep in. That's what it's all about.
That's great.
All right. Sweet. Okay, so here we go. Next one. Would you rather have a terrible boss and a good job, or a good boss and a terrible job?
Do we
Cool.
have
Say that one more time. You said good boss, terrible job.
Would you rather have a terrible boss but a good job, or a good boss but a terrible job?
Good boss, terrible job.
Just
Agreed. 100%.
I don't care what the job is. Yep.
People don't leave jobs. They leave bad leaders.
Yeah. 100%.
So we had Burger. So we got General Cantwell. He's running Burger Whopper. He's running Burger King. But we all up in there like, yeah, but this who we rolling with though. Right? That's who we rolling with.
I would still work for him there.
And they create the vision, right? The leader and whoever you're working for creates a vision, and they kind of just, like, even if you're, serving people, right? Like you're at McDonald's and they're like, hey, yeah, we're feeding, the community. We're making sure they have fresh food. We're doing, you find purpose in what you're doing. It's going to be like, well, I don't really like working at fast food, but dude, man, the leader.
You sold that. You sold that.
Yeah, you sold. I'm with you. I'm right with you, baby. I'm right with you. Let's go.
Okay, so I told you it's like that part, like it's like a deployment, right? Who all gonna be there, right? Because we all know deployments are rough.
Yeah,
we got to ask the question. All right, who all gonna be there? If we rolling with a good crew, we solid. We good. We're gonna have a good deployment, even though it's in Afghanistan. Like Chief McKean said, hey, although we're doing this escort, this, you know what I mean, outside the gate, who all gonna be there? Okay, that person gonna be there. All right, cool. We good. We good. No problem.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
we rolling.
Yeah, if your boss is terrible and it's like, but you got a great job, you got full autonomy, you got this like stand-on job.
Now you tolerate.
Yeah, but your boss is micromanaging you. You got to check in every 5 minutes. Hey, why are you not doing this? It's like, dude, what in the world? You know what?
Because they're going to make that good job a terrible job. So you're going to be with the terrible job and a terrible leader.
Yeah, now we're terrible. I used to love this job, but I hate it now.
I hate it because my boss is busting me up.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Got you.
I would go with the first one.
Okay, so you're gonna have a terrible boss and a good job.
Oof.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've had both at the same time. I've had a terrible job and a terrible boss at the same time, and it was the terrible job that got to me.
Was it like a 6-year-old that didn't know math?
It was a 35-year-old I would divorce and a whole bunch of stuff, and he just took it out on the workers.
Terrible.
And he was a scumbag. He was a scumbag, and I hated it. But I hated that job more.
Well,
so what? Math tutor was better.
Math tutor is better, but I was a dishwasher back then, and I was tired.
How can you make dishwashers? It's already bad.
Soggy hands.
Okay,
I know.
Okay.
So with the bad boss, I got to a point where it's like, man, you can't bring me down anymore. I'm just vibe. The coworkers are cool. I'll be fine. I only got to talk to you twice a day.
Okay. Cool. Next question. Would you rather go on a nearby business trip alone or travel far away with all of your coworkers?
It depends on if I like my coworkers.
Okay. Then we're using your current coworkers.
I'm traveling.
You traveling with who?
I'm traveling with
Harris? You rolling with your coworkers? Okay. Okay.
A nearby trip? What do you mean by near? See, I'm trying to dissect
that's
the
what
question.
it says. It says a nearby business trip alone.
Like
nearby business trip alone.
Like a city over. Like
I don't think it's all that. And it's where you can get. It's where you can get to within a day. I mean, I would argue that. Like, if you want to go to New York, you could go. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yes. Okay. Or you rolling alone, or you rolling with your coworkers?
I'm rolling with my coworkers because, dude, if you roll a solo dolo, you need somebody. You get those awkward moments. Look, you get those awkward moments when you're in a meeting and you and a coworker, y'all on the same wavelength, and y'all look at each other like, would you just? And y'all look at each other back and forth. You need that person that you can lean on. You know what I'm saying? So I would go with my people.
You rolling with the coworkers?
Yeah,
all right, cool.
Coworkers.
I just think when we're in the airport and they say all active duty members, please step up. I'd rather step up with the squad than by myself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna be up there regardless, but I'd rather not like walk up like that one guy with the Molly backpack and all the patches.
That's gonna be me tomorrow. You already know. Hey man, thanks for your service. Hey, thank you for your service, man.
Hey, military, first class, active duty military. Bam.
Give me my doing?
Nice to meet you. I'm right on it.
I would just like to say, as a person who about 75% of their life during the school year is traveling, I would just also like to say, so General Cantwell is retiring this summer. And so even if he wasn't retiring, it would be time for the change of command to happen. I would just like to say that no one has a more vested interest in learning who the new commander of the Home Center is going to be than this girl right here. Because what if they're a cranky traveler? Like, what if they don't like being at the Montgomery airport at like 5:30 in the morning, right? Like, we have a great rapport together. Earlier this year, I had a TDY that I had to go by myself to UNC Chapel Hill for a course that I was in for the week. But guess who came, and we tag teamed at the end of the week, and we got to go to Duke, General Cantwell. Right. And I was so happy to see him. I was like, yay, there's my wingman is here. And the team is back together, and we're going to crush it. So I would say most definitely I would much rather travel with my team than go alone.
Cool. Well,
same.
Everybody saying crew?
Yeah.
Crew? Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Would you guys rather work for a startup or would you rather work for a corporation? Which one would you do? Startup or corporation?
How much I'm getting paid?
Startup.
I like blazing new trails. But man, if you tell me at the corporation I'm getting broke off, I might have to go for the corporation. Right.
Oh my God!
Look, it's not about money right now, but when I retire, it's clearly about money.
Right.
So I'm at a different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah. You going to Lockheed or going to Heat Lock? Which one you going? Which one
you going to Lockheed? Look, because Heat Lock. Look, maybe if I was 30, I'd go to Heat Lock, but at 40, I'm not hitting Heat Lock, bro. Lockheed.
Okay, you going Lockheed.
B and I are over here making adult decisions. We are like, you know what? I'm going to go with level. What's going to be stability in my life.
Right.
You know, I need a good 401k and some benefits and some paid time off, and to make sure that I can afford to send them damn kids to college. That's what we're going for.
Got you. Not that Heat Lock. Not that Heat Lock life. That's the youngsters. The youngsters, the youngsters were like, yeah, we'll go Heat Lock. Yeah, we'll go start it up. And that's how it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah. Me and Chief, we in our C-suites. We're in the back. We just sitting back, typing on our computer, and doing what we got to do.
Or back when I was chief, right? You can say those stories.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. All right. Everybody pretty much said their fair share. Everybody's got it. Okay. All right. Cool. Would you rather come in early or leave late?
Early.
Come in early. You know what I do.
Early.
I'm going in. Yeah, I'm with y'all on that one. I'm coming in early. Okay. Cool. That was easy, right? Okay. The most important one of them all. Okay. This is the last one. All right. Would you rather meet Big Bird or Barney?
Barney.
Really? Y'all gonna meet Barney the Purple Dinosaur?
Wait.
That Barney. Not Bernie.
Not the Barney from
I thought you said Bernie.
No, Barney, not Weekend at Bernie's.
So I
Not
was thinking
Weekend
like
at Bernie's.
Bert and
Barney.
Ernie.
Okay, no,
Barney.
no.
Okay,
Barney.
Big Bird.
Okay.
Barney is annoying.
He is with his little song. I love you. You love me. We're a happy family with a great big and
so which one
you?
You gonna sing the whole damn song? Okay, so about to get a base visit. It is like, okay, cool. Big Bird's coming or Barney's coming. Which one are you guys more hyped about?
Big Bird.
Dang, we got some zing up Barney's up here.
Probably Big Bird, but I'm gonna stay in the office. I'm just gonna be like, y'all didn't. You know what? I'm gonna cut some.
Tell them I said what's up.
I'm gonna cut some of the airmen out. I'm gonna say, you know what? Y'all go enjoy that. I'll work. I'll hold on to fort.
Tell them I said what's up.
Tell them I said what's up. And that's it.
Appreciate raising me, baby. Appreciate you bringing me up.
Yeah.
Sharing everything I need to know.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm down with Sesame Street.
Let me know when they unload Clifford on the C5. I'm seeing Clifford though, for sure.
Yeah. I'm just saying, Big Bird, man, Sesame Street, that was the block right there.
Yep.
Right. Everybody you needed to know was on that block.
He might bring his friends. Big Bird might bring his friends.
That's what I'm saying.
Kermit might be there. Miss Pitch might be there.
That's true.
The Count might be there. That's right. He's also not going to want to go TDY alone, and he's going to be rolling beat with the crew.
I'm going to holler at. I'm hollering at Oscar. Oscar, man, that's my man right there. That dude has so much knowledge, man. It's like he had so much knowledge. He was just cranky because he understood the world, and they just called him crazy. And Big Bird will be able to introduce me to that dude. That's where I'm going with Big Bird. Okay, so we good. Now the last one. Okay, so as we wrap this thing up, I want to wrap it up with a quote that I caught here, and I just wanted to for you guys to kind of say what's on your mind, what comes to mind real quick. Here it goes. It says, somebody should tell us right from the start of our lives that we're dying. Then we might live life to the limit every minute of every day. Do it. Whatever you want to do it now. There are only so many tomorrows. Started off with, look, again, life is limited. We have to be grateful and thankful that we're here in the first place. If you want to do something, go forth and do it. People are going to tell you that they don't think you can do it and all this other stuff like that. They're going to naturally tell you that. The worst thing you can do with a big dream is give it to somebody with a small mind, because they're going to crash it anyway. They're going to find ways to poke holes in it when you should just be going and living your life. We all get caught up in telling our kids, man, you got plenty of time. You guys got plenty of time. You got plenty of time. We said it today. We got plenty of time. But if you changed it and said, man, time is limited, you got to do everything, like do what you need to do, that might change that kid's mentality and change those adults' mentality to say, you know what? We need to get at it. What do I want in life? Let me get at it, because there's only so many tomorrows. So I would encourage and challenge everybody else to live up to your expectations, follow your dreams, and do all the big things that you want to do, because we're not going to be here forever. So with that being said, what do you guys think as we wrap this thing up?
Honestly, for me, limiting, it's more about like self too. If you're giving me limits of my life, then obviously I'll kind of live to the fullest a little bit more, because I kind of like, for myself, limit myself from doing certain things because I'm like nervous about them.
I would say just show gratitude and be humble, because like we think a lot about it, like, yeah, do all that you can because you only have a X amount of time, but also do your peers, also do your family, your friends. And oftentimes we forget about that until like they're gone, you know? Because I just think about this like whole ROTC journey, 5 years. I have lost so many people along the way that I'm like, you didn't expect. And next thing you know, like, you wish you would have went out with them, you know, sooner, or, you know, things like that. So yes, think about yourself, but also just be there for your family, be there for your friends, because they'll be gone one day too. When you said that, I thought about a kid that I tutor, and I saw him at the gym one day. And we were working out, and he asked me, he's like, man, I want to be big and strong, moving weights like you. And I was like, okay, what do you do? And he's like, I do this, and I do cardio. And I was like, do you bench? Do you squat? What do you do? He's like, yeah, I want to get muscles. He's like, I don't want to squat because I don't want to get hurt. And I was like, what? You don't want to get hurt? And I was like, how are you going to get big if you don't lift weights? Or along the lines. And he's like, I'm scared. And I was like, come on, man. And he's in calculus and trying to pursue his degree. And I was like, would you not take calculus because you're scared you were going to fail it? He's like, oh, no, you're right. But, I mean, I don't think that we have rights as human beings to die without seeing your maximum potential.
Come on, y'all.
Vin, close. I'm done. Somebody else go.
Yeah, bundle the clock.
I think for me, I know it's going to sound a little bit cheesy, but I really like you guys heard the song I Lived by One Republic?
Yeah.
And they talk about like, he says in the song, he's like, I did it all. There are so many things that I had an opportunity to do and I did it. I swear I lived, right? Like, you're right. Like, no day is promised. You hear about it all the time. Like, someone sold on the freeway or, whatever the situation is. Do everything that you can so that you feel like you left it all on the table. And, I think about my life that way, but I also think about my career that way. Like, I've been able to do things that I never imagined that I could do. Just some, poor girl, that came from a, uneducated family, decided to take a chance and join the Air Force. And, now I've been able to do so many things that I never thought that I would ever have a chance to do. And, some of that is, taking a little bit of risk. A lot of it is hard work. And then the other piece of it is just perseverance of if you face, adversity, or if you're denied an opportunity, of not giving up and saying, okay, this didn't work. What can I do next? Just keep pressing forward. And, to me, I think that's someday, when I die, I hope that I look back on my life and say, like, I did it all. I did everything that I wanted to do in my life and more. And it was a good life. And I'm happy that I had the chance for the life that I had.
For me, I guess, just being comfortable with being uncomfortable, putting yourself in positions to like better yourself, challenge yourself, continuously challenging yourself. For me, that's one thing I would say.
Cool.
So for me, you said life is limited, but live it limitless, right? So for me, I just focus on each stage is getting the most out of it because, like Chief, I don't come from an educated family. I don't come from any kind of money or anything like that, but I want to take the opportunity to just be the benchmark for my family, right? Like, my family tree is rotten. I have to replant it and start this thing all the way over and benchmark for my children. So that's why I don't swap any opportunity or any day. I make sure I'm locked in with them. I make sure that I'm locked in at work because I'm setting the example for them and how to live their lives as they move forward throughout the world. So that's my personal mantra.
All right. Wonderful. Al said, well spoken. All right. So with that, we will wrap this thing up. You guys did great. I appreciate you guys coming. Of course, Chief McKean, Chief Rouser, thanks for coming through and hanging with us. Man, you guys have really did it big. Therefore, really appreciate your service in advance. Hakeem, of course, we appreciate your service out there. Continue to do big things. And of course, if you need any OTS or ROTC advice or experience or whatever questions, come and ask us. We're here. We're available for you. All right. In the words of your singing, my wife, hey, be kind. And of course, Colonel Johnny Galbert, find somebody else different than you. You might learn something new. With that being said, we wish you guys a fair adieu. See ya.